Hello and welcome to Psyched, the show where we explore psychedelics through social, economic, and political perspectives. Our next speaker is Eesmyal Santos-Brault. Eesmyal is an entrepreneur and investor with a mission to invent solutions to wicked problems through technology and social innovation. He has co-founded 8 ventures in a variety of areas, including green building, co-working, locative media, civic engagement, education, and research. Some of these include Vancouver's premier social impact co-working space, The Hive, a B Corp certified consulting company, Recollective, that facilitates the design and construction of some of the greenest buildings in Canada, and a health tech startup, Quantified Citizen, that's working to disrupt and democratize health research, starting with psychedelic medicine. Eesmyal is committed to psychedelic science and serves on the board of directors of MAPS Canada. Eesmyal, thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to Psyched.
Thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
Great, okay. So I'm just going to launch into presentation here. All right, is everyone seeing this presentation?
Yep, you're good.
Slide? Perfect. Okay, so as was mentioned, my name is Eesmyal. I'm the CEO of Quantified Citizen. This is my friend and business partner, Kalin Harvey. He's the CTO. And we're doing a little tag team presentation here on a sneak peek into a 10,000 person microdosing study that we're just wrapping up right now with the University of British Columbia and with Paul Stamets. We're also going to introduce a new tool that we've used to be able to do this to empower psychedelic practitioners and accelerate the psychedelic research world. So it started with a personal curiosity in microdosing for ourselves and in the quantified self movement, and a bit of a frustration that there weren't any tools out there that could help in validating if microdosing worked or not. There wasn't a lot of research when we first started in microdosing, and we were just wishing that as you know, technology nerds ourselves, wishing that there could be a tool out there that we could use to be able to just do the test, create a study ourselves, a self-blinding, right, on a mobile phone, collect the data, and then give us the results. So we got frustrated, so we built a tool, and we teamed up with Paul Stamets, a famous mycologist who you probably know, and he joined on as an advisor and investor actually in Quantified Citizen, and our company and our microdosing study launched on the Joe Rogan Experience in November of last year. So we found that through our experience in developing this study, that we discovered how frustrating the traditional research process is in psychedelic research. It's very slow and expensive. In fact, we worked with a few institutions and on a LSD microdosing clinical trial that we actually co-wrote, and we realized how expensive it is. And it's just like, wow, why does it need to be this expensive? Why does it need to be this slow? There's got to be another way to access the data, to do some shorter, kind of easier studies, observational studies. And we also learned that there was a lot of the research that was happening out there is great, but we didn't feel like it's been led enough by the practitioners in the field. So we really felt like there needs to be another model for doing psychedelic research that's informed by practitioners. So you see this opportunity to really accelerate the legal access of psychedelics. In order to do that, we know we need high quality data, more of it, to demonstrate the safety and efficacy, and to also identify potential harms. There are so many substances out there. MAPS is doing a really great job. As was mentioned, I'm on the board of MAPS Canada, and MAPS is doing a great job in helping with MDMA in particular. But let's face it, started in 1986 and still not legal now. It's a very expensive and time-consuming process. If we apply that same process to all of the other psychedelic compounds out there, it's just going to take, we don't have enough time to do it. So we need another approach. We need an innovative approach. We know that there's this huge untapped underground community of millions of people around the world who are already consuming psychedelics and as just psychonauts recreationally, or are facilitating psychedelic experiences as doctors, as guides, and potentially risking their livelihoods and their careers by doing that. But the information that's being collected is not being tapped into. And how do you find a way to do that and overcome the privacy concerns, which are really natural if you're dealing with illegal substances? So there needs to be some way to address privacy and address being able to coordinate high quality distributed research. So at the same time, it needs to be anonymous and inexpensive and scientifically rigorous. So what we've I think this will start playing, but this is just the consent process for is it, sorry, yeah, okay. So for the sign up for our mobile app for doing the microdosing, well, actually just for our mobile app, actually, I'll tell you more about it, but is a general purpose mobile health research platform. We're focusing in psychedelic research to begin with. And, but you can see here, the sign up is totally anonymous. And we're not taking any personally identifiable information. There's no email address, no name, no location information is collected. So it's truly anonymous. If you forget your 12 randomly generated words, we're not able to get the data back from you. You're not able to log back in, I mean. So we take that very seriously, this privacy. So, oops. Yeah, so, thanks. So what this led us to was we said, okay, well, so in order to satisfy all those requirements, as I mentioned, in terms of the opportunity and then the solution around accelerating psychedelic research, there needs to be this platform that's, we believe, practitioner-led and is anonymous for these large cohort studies. And our microdosing study is one of those. It's the proof of concept. It's the first study within the project. And there will be more to come. And this initiative needs to be informed also by professional researchers in the academic space. There are a lot of amazing researchers around the world working in psychedelics. There's great nonprofits like MAPS that are doing this kind of work, and there's Canadian, the CPA as well. And so we need to be able to connect all those people, the professional researchers, the practitioners, co-collaborate on study ideas, and then distribute them to everybody around the world and collect the data. So this leads to what our company is, which is a platform to disrupt and democratize health research. So it's funny because we had an itch. We were interested in psychedelic research, interested in microdosing, if it's going to work or not. We built an app to do that, and then we realized in order to do that, we need to generalize it. Once we generalized it, we realized this solves a problem in psychedelic research in general. And then we realized we can generalize this further to all kinds of health research. So there's lots of research, whether it's on gut health, on sleep issues, on all kinds of different things that you can think of. And we built the platform so it's easy enough so that it's rigorous enough for professional researchers to use, but also easy enough for non-researchers to use and create studies. It's on on mobile as well as the web. And it has scheduled validated custom surveys as well as active tasks. I'll say a bit more about that. And also is able to collect health data, sleep, heart rate variability, for instance, mindfulness minutes. All non-personally identifiable information is available for your own study if you'd like to be able to do that yourself. So I'll just skip through this. So as I mentioned, we're very privacy by design, and we have the citizen science side to things, and we're very interested in rigorous science and research and data collection, which is comes from the name Quantified Citizen. We want to make sure that the data that we collect is rigorous, so we have direct built-in measurements. And so moving into the mobile microdosing study that we built or that we worked on. The principal investigator for that is Dr. Zachary Walsh, a really amazing guy from the University of British Columbia. He's a psychologist. And the co-investigators are Dr. Pamela Krowski and from UBC, Faculty of Medicine, and one of Zach's PhD students, Joseph Rootman. The concept design for the study came from myself and Kalin, and as well as Paul Stamets, and we had many advisors as well who were contributing to this. You saw a little animated GIF start or play about just on the right here. This is just on the microdosing study going through the actual consent process. So just making sure that people are providing informed consent. There's a check for this, and there's a whole bunch of information about this, about the study at the end that they get as a PDF if they want it. And just to be clear, a lot of people thought that when we were doing this study that we were actually giving people LSD and psilocybin for microdosing and other substances. We're not. This is an observational study or a correlational study. And so we're observing people in the wild already microdosing, and we're asking them, if you're already doing this, and also if you're not doing it because you wanted a control group, please join our study. And this is looking specifically at, is there any correlations between microdosing and cognitive performance, as well as mental health? So I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. It's quite onerous. It's a 3-month study. There's a sign up where we, as I mentioned, collect the consent. There's a bunch of demographics, health history, a substance use survey that people collect, or that we collect. And then there's a baseline of tests that are done. These are active tasks on hearing, vision, motor control, and cognitive tests, as well as a bunch of psychological tests, standardized tests like the DAS-21 and PANAS. This sets a baseline for the participants, and then every month they do it again, and then we're able to compare. Has there been any change? Has there been any change? And this happens over a 3-month period. In between those months, there's daily surveys on microdosing behaviors as well as mental health. And so, yeah, it's a lot. And we're completely thankful and super amazed that so many people participated in this study, and it's ongoing. So just a quick peek of the numbers. As I mentioned, we have over 10,000 that participate in the microdosing study. In the specifics of the actual surveys, the number of people who participate in each one, for instance, the daily, we have 63,000.
63,000 submissions.
Submissions, and not people, but submissions. And same with and then the health intake and the demographics, the psychedelic use. So for instance, we can slice and dice this data. So we can look at, it's all the standardized questions around the demographics, like your age, the country of origin, your income levels, your profession, things like that, and see, what are the correlations there when we look at just demographics? Also, for those who provided some health information, if they had any kind of health conditions or reasons why they're microdosing. Is it for mental health reasons or for some other kinds of trauma or other reasons like that? So we can do some really interesting analysis there. So here are a few, did you want to?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So what we're seeing here on the left-hand side of the screen is just a video that's showing what one of the surveys would look like. So this is the daily survey, just asking people if they microdose that day, and then going into what they microdose with. This is also just an interesting question because there's so many people out there experimenting with this and microdosing with different types of substances and stacking it with different things. And then there's a series of questions about how they feel. And a lot of these were patterned off of research that's been done previously by Jim Fadiman and others, looking at daily variations and how people feel from one day to the next. Obviously, there's different protocols out there as well. So some people would be microdosing on a 4 days on, 3 days off, or 5 days on, 2 days off, or sometimes every 3rd or 4th day, depending on the approach that they're taking. And then on the right-hand side, this is just an example of one of the active tasks that Eesmyal mentioned earlier. So this is a spatial memory task. And, we get a baseline from people, like Eesmyal mentioned, when they first join up to see how they perform in this task. And then every month they do it again. So by comparing the group of people who have never microdosed and didn't microdose for the whole time, is kind of amazing. A lot of people signed up and did all of these tests, even though they had not microdosed. But we can compare their performance versus other people.
So sorry to interrupt. The only thing that we're seeing is the sneak peek into our 10,000 person microdosing study, that first slide. We're not seeing anything after that.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Let's see, maybe hit that.
Well, thanks for saying that. No, I'm just.
No, it's.
Okay. Wow, so you missed all of that. That's terrible. Okay, well.
Just hit stop and then restart.
Okay, I'll stop and restart sharing, I guess. Not sure what happened. Okay, are you seeing these slides? This is one, how it started, the psychedelic research problem.
Yep, we're seeing these now. Yep.
Just
Okay.
hit play and then.
I think we were following you until the last 15 seconds when you started talking about left and right of the
Yeah. Okay.
slide.
Oh, really? Okay, so you were able to see the animations and all that kind of stuff we showed?
We didn't see them, but I don't think people caught on to the fact that there weren't transitions until just now.
Oh, geez. Okay, we're on slide 15. Okay. All right. Well, did you want to? Anyways, this.
Well, yeah, we'll just let these play through, and you can see them. But
It says sharing's paused again.
Oh.
Sorry about this, folks. 1 second. Maybe I think it seems like when we go into full screen, it pauses the sharing.
Okay.
So we will share again.
Yeah, that's just
okay. Well, I guess you can't play in full screen. That's kind of lame. All right. Maybe just you can explain the spatial memory.
Yeah, so the spatial memory is an example of one of the active tasks where we're getting a baseline on cognitive performance and able to compare it to non-microdosers to microdosers. I think just you can see that now, but I think what I said earlier still stands there.
Yeah. So in terms of some of the numbers, in terms of the breakdown, just by country, for instance, this is just mainly. I didn't want to put in exact numbers here, but you can see the overwhelming majority of participants are from the US, followed by Canada, and then the UK, and then Australia. But we do have people from all around the world who have participated, and so again, it'll be very interesting to start to slice and dice this. Now, we have to be careful how much of this information we share because it hasn't been gone through the official analysis by the UBC research team yet, but we can share the big picture numbers. So, and I don't know, just in case it didn't get shared before, these are just the numbers on the survey and active tasks. I'm going back to slide 15 here, just to give you a sense of the number of completed studies. So for instance, just even the psychedelic use survey, this one over here with the 8,500 submissions, this is a very thorough psychedelic use as well as substance use survey, and informed by some other studies. They're very similar. So just the data on this alone is very interesting, and you could publish on just this, and then looking at the psychedelic use in correlation with the demographics, for instance, so there's lots of really interesting ways to slice and dice this. So I guess maybe there's also a call out for any researchers out there that when they see this data, they see the volume of it. If there's some interest, if this piques your specific curiosity and interest in your specialty, and I'm even thinking specifically these active tasks. So any experts out there in auditory perception or motor control, finger tapping, or spatial memory, and some of the cognitive tests, like some neuroscientists doing this research, it'd be really great to hear from you. And if you're interested in looking at some of this data, let's talk. So we, as mentioned, it was launched on the Joe Rogan podcast, so got a lot of attention from that, and some famous people like Michael Pollan mentioned it, which was great. And in terms of some of the lessons learned with this mobile microdosing study, did you want to maybe speak on this, or?
Yeah. I think getting the data in, we looked at. Like Eesmyal said, there was quite a bit of an ask for users. We combined a daily study, which has been done in the past, with also this monthly survey, which was more rigorous. So I think that what we're talking about now is what would version 2 of this look like, or how can we improve this? And this is this ongoing process of what we're doing with the Psychedelic Data Project, is saying how can we continue to refine this process and refine the platform so that we can collect more data, more high quality data as we go forward. So some things we'll do in version 2 probably would be to manage the workload and set expectations, give people an option about how much time they want to put into it, whether they want to complete the daily surveys, which a lot of people did. Mm-hmm. But also if people just want to do them once a month, that, I think we could increase participation also on that even further. We had some challenges because we rushed to get this out there, and we were excited about it. So obviously there were some bugs in the app, but we've been fixing those as we've been going forward and improving things.
What's that expression about? Like if you don't have any bugs in your app, then you're...
Yeah, if you're not embarrassed by your first release, then you're releasing too late. So.
So some of the next steps on this study, it's obviously very early stage still in terms of the numbers, but we are close to wrapping up. We could close it at any time, and but the research team at UBC is starting to look at the data and analyze it, and then look at a number of potential publications. Not potential, planned publications. There will be several publications, and I think we're open, again, as I mentioned, to other academics who would like to look at the data and do some research and some publication with it, if it's relevant to what you're up to. And then we have the plans for developing a version 2 of the study, as Kalin mentioned, probably a simplified version, learning from what worked, what would make it a lot easier, what would, where, or even also with the correlations themselves, where was a strong signal, and let's look at that again. Let's slice and dice based on some of the signals there. And so we quite confidently believe that we've demonstrated it's possible to accelerate the psychedelic research space and generate a lot of high quality data through the process. And so we're excited about what's next in terms of other psychedelic research projects that we can use, that we can do together collaboratively on our platform. And so we're looking for research partners. We're looking for psychedelic guides and therapists, as well as suppliers and product companies. So we're actually, we know there's lots of companies out there that are quite open about this, selling microdosing kits online, for instance, but other substances online. And this can even include research chemicals that are, unscheduled in the country of origin, for instance. There's a lot of interesting data that could be collected about the use of some of these research chemicals. In fact, we're talking to some groups about that in the Netherlands right now. We're also, of course, interested in talking to everybody out there who is a psychonaut and would like to participate in a study or has a study idea. Because remember, this is a tool for everybody. This is a tool for people to create their own studies based on their own hunches, their own intuitions of what they think would work or not. And so we'd love you to join our psychedelic data revolution. And here's our contact information, our email address and addresses, a Signal phone number if you'd prefer to contact us that way, and our Twitter handle. Yeah, I think that wraps us up. We're a few minutes early, I think, on our presentation, but actually, no, I think we're right on time. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if there's any questions, we're open.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. You're also welcome to close the screen share so we can see you both again.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing some of these preliminary results. I know a lot of folks have been really interested to hear. The first audience question we have is about whether you're planning on sharing any of these anonymized research findings through the Open Science Foundation for collaboration with researchers.
In terms of sharing the anonymous findings, like the raw data, or just the findings for sure. I mean, there's, the plan is, I think, open access journals, and so, we want the data to be as open as possible, or the results to be, and conclusions to be as open as possible. So yeah, in terms of the data itself, because this is part of a larger project, the Psychedelic Data Project, which there will be many more studies like this. Then that's going to be a consortium of researchers, organizations that will have access to the raw data, raw anonymized data. Mm-hmm. And so, there'll be a process for how they can access it and request, ask questions to query the database, for instance.
Definitely.
That answers.
Yeah, and what kind of research topics do you think that you'll be exploring next, and especially with psychedelic guides, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really interesting question to talk to guides and have them have a lot more of a hand in developing protocols. I think traditionally there's been a lot of research, and we've talked to guides where they get approached by researchers who come in and say, okay, I want to study this, and it's kind of an imposition on the guides. Where I think that the guides, there's a real opportunity to have them participate and look at research questions that have been bugging them, or innovations that they're doing in their practice. So. I don't know if we can go into any of the details.
Well, I mean, we can say there's, in particular, we're curious, we're very curious, and we're talking to people who are working with these chemicals, but 3-MMC and 5-MeO-DMT in particular, they're being used in therapeutic contexts, and we're very interested in collecting some data on that and doing some studies and working with the practitioners who are using those chemicals.
Also different approaches with Ibogaine and Ibogaine clinics, and some of the innovation that's going on there that hasn't been explored through research yet.
Yeah. I mean, for example, the booster doses. Yeah, booster doses. So there's some evidence anecdotally, but that when people go in for an Ibogaine treatment, when they come back, if they come back and they're provided with a sort of a microdose, if you will, or a smaller dose, a booster dose of Ibogaine, then they end up doing a bit better. And there's a whole, this has been developed over time of like, what's the best way, and the frequency and the amount, the dosage and all that kind of stuff. And that's been tweaked. And so being able to test that out and see, okay, well, this methodology, this protocol has been developed by practitioners through evidence. How could we start to research that and even start to validate it?
I mean, I think just one more comment on that, like big picture wise, is that there's been this like persistent sort of narrative. You see it in Michael Pollan's book and other sources where they say how psychedelic research was this really great burgeoning field in the 60s, and then it all dried up for 30 or 40 years. When the reality is that the research continued. It just always happened underground, and we think that, adding and providing tools to the guides and the people who are on the ground doing that research and collecting, giving them the opportunity to collect data and design protocols is going to be able to accelerate the whole field of psychedelic research in general. So
definitely. Where do you feel like the limitations of an application like Quantified Citizen stop? What are some of the things where you won't really be able to go past, and you're going to need to leave to kind of the, I guess, clinical trials and everything? That's
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. With the microdosing study, for instance, I mean, we're not providing any substances for anyone, so we're relying on people to contribute or to say what their dose is, and when they're taking it, and that information might not be 100% accurate in every case. I mean, to ask somebody, are you taking 10 micrograms or 20 micrograms of LSD? I mean, they might not even know, because the source of their LSD might not be that well measured in the first place. And so that is a limitation. And I think, the idea is to overcome the quality, of that data with quantity. So as you can see, the numbers we have are much higher than, a clinical study where you would have maybe a dozen people come into a lab and take very well measured doses. So that is a limitation. And I think, for doing clinical trial research, it's a different sort of process. So I think what we're able to do is provide enough early information that it can get up to the research community and then inform a lot of that more rigorous clinical trial type research.
Yeah,
definitely.
But also, if I can just say add to that, in terms of, for instance, the psychedelic suppliers who are providing calculated measured doses and selling that online, they can and they are interested in collecting data on this and making it anonymously available to the larger project, the Psychedelic Data Project. So you can imagine people these microdosing suppliers coming up with their own studies informed by some of the other professional researchers, and then and so that when participants buy a product from them online, they would be given a QR code or a link which they could click on, and they would be enrolled into their own private study that would be for that particular supplier. So that supplier would be able to collect that information about their product, and it would be much more rigorous because it's based on its exact dosing, right? And so there's some benefits there. And again, that data itself would then be available to the larger research consortium.
Definitely. Yeah, well, thank you both so much for sharing. I know a lot of folks were really excited to hear about this project. So looking forward to hearing more and talking more later.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks a lot for the invite.
Yeah, talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.